So I've got three things for you: TAC Driver Vanes, my TAC arrow setup, and a bonus at the end. Stay tuned. All right, first things first, go hit subscribe. Thank you. Now go to Instagram, follow me. I'm s.g.holmes. That's all my day-to-day stuff if you want to keep up with that. I post pretty frequent and regularly on there, probably more so than I do here. So go do it, I'm there. And also you can DM me, chat with me. Happy to help where I can. If I don't know, I don't know. I'll tell you that, but I'll try to at least steer you in the right direction. All right, enough of that. First up, TAC vanes. So last year I was on the quest to find the best vane to steer my fixed blade broadhead. I had a elk hunt that I had to use a fixed blade for. Really happy with the setup, but ended up testing a ton of vanes from a ton of different manufacturers. I did that. I think if you follow on Instagram, you probably saw me do that. And I ended up coming out with a pretty good winner, pretty clear winner. And that was TAC's Driver 2.75 and a 4-fletch. It was kind of splitting hairs between the 2.25, but I felt like the 2.75 was just a little bit more forgiving in terms of my setup. Steered perfectly, had really no issues. That led to some pretty good success. I feel like I shot my first bull, a nice bull out in Colorado this September with that setup. Several whitetail, using iron wheels and even severs. It didn't matter. I think that vane and that setup really performed really well. So what are the pros? Why did I like it? Well, first off, that test was purely on how quiet and the best groups for me in my setup. From there though, I will say that after shooting them for about a year now, some of the pros I think are the material itself is really stiff. So if you compare like to a blazer or something other that's very pliable, the material that they use is a very hard vane. And I'm not sure all the scientific reasons for it, why they went that way, but they claim that it is a lower drag than most vanes. And really I found that setup that I had even in a 4-fletch to do really well at long ranges. I didn't really see kind of that parachuting effect that you might see with hard helicals or higher profile vanes with hard helicals or 4-fletch. I felt like it performed really well. It didn't rob me of any speed. Also, it was very quiet. I know quiet is a little bit different difficult to judge. I had a camera sitting down there with a mic and just really looked at what was the loudest. This was among the quietest of the group. Also, I shot through quite a few targets, especially if you're using fixed blade broadheads, and I found the vane that even if it would get deformed, it would pop right back and look brand new within several minutes. So I like that about it. Whereas other vanes, you're going to have rips, tears, or warping, where you have to peel the vane off and start all over. Which isn't a big deal, but I do like that. The other thing is, compared to some of the other vanes in around a 2.5 or a 2.75 inch profile, is the weight. So these only weigh about 7 grains a piece, and the 2.75, I think the 2.25 is like maybe 5 grains. So compared to the other vane that I really did like, those vanes were around 9 grains, and a lot of inconsistency from vane to vane that I tested. Again, not naming names, but kind of a heavy vane. So I could get away with a 4-fletch and be around the same as roughly a 3-fletch with these other arrows. So I like that quite a bit. Downsides. I really don't think there's any downsides other than I have heard a few people have issues with adhesion to their arrow. And with that, if you're not following the directions and use their primer and glue, or a primer pen and a glue that works with this material, you're probably gonna run into issues, or you will run into issues. So you need the primer pen. I bought their adhesion kit at the time. This is still the original kit, and I have fletched several dozen arrows. I'm out of the glue just about, but plenty of primer left. I guess the downside would be it takes an extra maybe 2 or 3 seconds per arrow, which isn't a big deal. You just need a couple swipes on it. You know, the other thing is make sure you get a good bead of glue on the vane, and then when you adhere it, make sure your air bubbles are out. If you've done that, you're solid. I mean, I did a post, a story on Instagram not too long ago trying to pull a TAC driver vane off of an arrow because I was changing the configuration, and you know, I had to get a knife. I mean, pliers and you know, just trying to pull it off would not work. So, you know, big takeaway, follow the directions. So that's TAC Driver Vanes. Let's talk about TAC Total Archery Challenge arrow setup, right? So this year, me and some buds are headed to Big Sky. We're able to get in for a couple days there, and I've been on the quest to kind of look for my arrow setup. Well, here it is. You may have seen it on Instagram already, but I'm really liking this. I'm, you know, starting to shoot it a bit and play with different vane configurations, and this is what I think I'm going to go with. So I went with an Easton Sonic 6.0. It is very light. I think overall I went with a 340 spine. Again, I'm going for the lightest, fastest. I mean, my goal is to maximize my sight tape. And in order to do that, I needed light arrow generating as much speed as I possibly can. So the 340 spine, the way I got away with that is I'm going to lower my poundage a little bit on my bow. I'm not running any kind of heavy weight up front, so this is their standard 18 grain insert. The arrow shaft itself at the 340 is got 7.8 grains per inch, very light, and also cut it short. So you know, by not running a lot of weight up front and running the standard insert, cutting it short, lowering my poundage on my bow, I can get away with a little bit lighter of an arrow as it stiffens up the spine when you do those two things. You know, aside from that, I went with the TAC Driver 2.25 and a 4 fletch. I tried it in a 3 fletch, steered just fine, but I found in a 4 fletch, if you look at the profile, say of a 3 fletch, you have a cock vane that's sitting up, you know, about a 1/2 inch. If you turn it sideways, you're getting a little bit more clearance. Okay, it might be splitting hairs, but hey, I'm trying to maximize the tape, and that's what works. Aside from that, I like wraps. I'm a wrap guy. I'm not a, yes, it adds a little bit of weight, 5 grains or so to the back of the arrow, but they fly fine and I'm good. But I love wraps, and I like 1-stringer wraps. So this is just their white 4-inch wrap. I think it looks pretty dope. This setup, again, total setup is around 365 grains, all said and done. Which is generating speeds. Right now I'm still kind of tinkering, you know, fine tuning my bow. I have to do a string change pretty soon, but I'm getting around between 310 and 315 feet per second on the bow that I think I'm going to take, but we'll see. So again, really fast, really light. And I thought I'd just maybe add just a few tips, like if you're planning on going for a TAC shoot or trying to go, you know, ultra long distance, here's a few tips that I found that will help you. My sight tape currently that I'm running is around 150 yards, which I don't think these old eyes can see that far, but it's nice to know I can do it if I want. So again, you need a light, fast setup in terms of your arrow. Speed's the name of the game, but you still need accuracy and to stabilize your arrow. Again, I gave you the tip about the 4 fletch turning, you know, if you have it sideways, you get more clearance than if you have a cock vane up. So that's pretty awesome. Also, a small scope or sight housing is pretty awesome. You probably hear my dog barking. She's good. So, you know, I shoot ultra view. I've got the UV3, so that's the smaller scope housing. You get a little bit more clearance out of that because it's not as large. So really what you're looking at is your fletching contact with your housing. So that UV3 works great. Also, the sight frame is my HHA Tetra Max Rise, which is baller. It is set up, comes with long distance tapes, which again, I've shown on Instagram before. It also has a 2-pin indicator, which I will now confirm with you that 2-pin indicator matches up perfectly with a UV double pin. So that 2-pin, even if you're maxed out on your housing, you have that bottom pin that gives you a good amount more yardage to kind of help you stretch things out. The last thing is your peep, right? So if you can bump your peep sight up a little bit, you're gonna stretch out and get a little bit more yardage, as you're gonna have to raise that bow up to get the same kind of aim point. So one thing you can do is look at, okay, of your total yardage you think you're gonna shoot, what I do is I find my midpoint. So let's say you're gonna shoot 100 yards. I will probably go to 50 yards and level my peep at 50. That way, you know, if I go back, and one thing that will happen is as you go further back, your anchor is going to change a little bit, right? Because you're still having to line up that peep as you're kind of moving that bow up. So if you already have it up a bit higher than you normally would, it helps out. Again, you're going to have to though really play with it, find what works for you. You don't want your anchor really moving all around. But what you do want it to have is a very comfortable anchor, but still, like, if you can bump it up just a smidge, you'll get a few more yards. So hopefully that helps out. In fact, shoot a comment below. Let me know what are your tricks? What do you do to stretch out your yardage on your bow? Maybe what's your TAC setup? I'd love to know what you guys are shooting. And with that, I really appreciate everybody stopping by and supporting the channel. That said, go follow me on Instagram, s.g.holmes. Like, subscribe to the channel, comment below, all that fun stuff. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to DM me. I'm always up for meeting new folks. And with that, aim small, miss small.